Okay, let's take a look at the box office from this past week. Total domestic box office was $172 million, which was a whopping 133% jump. So huge jump. If you've been following the channel, following the show, you've heard me say a million times that January and parts of February are really the dead zone of the box office year. August and September are also kind of part of that group, but at least those are usually, particularly August, those are usually still carrying over some box office from the huge summer movies. And, there are still huge movies in November and December, and we're still seeing them here. They're not going to be as huge, right? But it's usually around this middle part of February that, at least in recent box office history, this is when you start to have some bigger releases. And opening at number 1, we have Captain America: Brave New World, the newest MCU installment that is very mid from what I hear. I was going to go see it. I just don't have the time to go see everything anymore, at least as of right now. My life's kind of in like a little bit of a chaotic period. And I was just like, I just don't have the time to go see a mid movie. But at least it, beat the bottom projections, right? So this was projected to make around 80 to 105 million. I put it around a 92 million target. It ended up making a little less than 88 million. So, at least it made that a bottom threshold. But again, this is still, pretty low, but not awful. If you look at Deadpool and Wolverine, which of course is a very different kind of movie in a different set of circumstances, it being, a Deadpool movie, which is its own, has its own built-in audience and box office prospects. On top of it also being the return of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, kind of being a send-off to all the Marvel Fox, all the Marvel stuff that Fox worked on over the past couple of decades. That opened around 200 something million, I believe, right? So this is less than half of that. And again, that makes sense, but I think Disney was hoping that Deadpool and Wolverine would be the rule, not the exception. We still have Fantastic Four later this year, but also something like Thunderbolts, which is coming out sooner, like in May. The jury's still out if Deadpool was the exception or the rule, right? And it's made about interestingly, it made more, actually not interestingly, this actually makes a lot of sense. This made an additional around 100 million internationally, so worldwide it's made about 180 million. And it was made for about 180 million. So, worldwide, it right now has a $200,000 profit. So, it at least has crossed that initial threshold, which I was happy to see, right? Not happy that I'm, in the sense that I'm really rooting for this film one way or the other, but just happy that, if I were them, I would at least go, phew, all right, that's at least one thing. Because there's plenty of films that, open and they're in the red. So while you still want to at least double the budget to really truly break evens, because of course the budget isn't counting for marketing and advertising. Ideally, you want to double the budget, but at least in the opening, you want to at least clear the budget, right? At least just purely off of that number. I'm expecting a pretty precipitous drop, especially considering, again, the reviews have not been great. It's not like critics hate it, but audiences love it. It doesn't really seem like audiences care for it all that much. I think the issue is not superhero fatigue. I think audiences are just tired of same old, right? And again, that's why Deadpool did so well, is because it was, in a lot of ways it was same old, but on a superficial level, it was, it had something new to offer to audiences, or at least something semi-novel. Also opening this week, we also have Paddington in Peru, the third Paddington film, and fittingly it opened at third place, bringing in around $13 million, which unfortunately fell below the projections of around 15 to 23. I had put around 18, so that is definitely a little disappointing. I think this has already been in theaters, though, internationally, because worldwide it's made almost $130 million. So unless it just had a gangbusters weekend, which is very possible, my understanding is that I think this has already maybe been playing in some other markets. And it was only made for about $75 million. So despite this rather small opening, this has also not been in the red. And and at least it's on its way. And what I'm doing right now, I'm trying to multitask here. I'm gonna just double check and see what the first two Paddington films opened at. So the first Paddington opened domestically at around 19 million, and then Paddington 2 opened around 11 million. Okay, so this is pretty standard. And this kind of makes sense because I feel like there wasn't a lot of marketing for it. I think they really don't try to market these super aggressively. I think they, maybe put more of their money into international. Because, I never knew about Paddington as a kid, but I guess Paddington is like Winnie the Pooh and like Curious George, but for like British audiences. And I'm sure it's not like they don't have Curious George or Winnie the Pooh, but I don't think I had any recollection or exposure or understanding or familiarity with Paddington until I was in high school and I heard about this movie, the first one coming out, going, oh, that's interesting. Anyway, and then I moved on with my life. But, clearly it's been doing pretty well overseas. Also opening, or at least making its domestic debut, is a Chinese animated film called I'm presuming it's Ne Zha. That might be Zha. A Ne Zha 2. Opening at 7.3 million, opening at number 5, which is interesting. This thing's already been making a shit ton of money. So if you look here, worldwide, it's made over $1 billion off of, again, this is of course, converted to US dollars. So it's made over $1 billion. It was made for about $80 million. So this is like an over, 1,200% return, as you can see over on that far right column. So again, I know nothing about Ne Zha or its sequel, but clearly it is enough of a powerhouse internationally, specifically in China, that it's, anything it's doing in the United States is just icing on the cake. And the fact that it made it into the top 10, like I didn't see any marketing about this. I don't even know what this is. I looked, when I say I don't know anything, I looked a little bit into it before. It's like an animated action adventure film, I think. The fact it's squeaking into the top 10, not only squeaking, but making it into the top 5 speaks to, I guess, the success of this film. But again, also just like the state of the box office in this part of the year, right? Continuing into their second weeks, we have Heart Eyes holding its second place spot, bringing in just a little over 13 million, actually having a jump, which is interesting. And actually, I'm going to do some real-time fact checking, because this was already wide. It's not like it, because if you look here, while I have a site pulling up, if you look at number 10, we have Becoming Led Zeppelin, which is a documentary about the titular band, Led Zeppelin, bringing it a little under $3 million. It had an 11% jump, but that's because it opened wide. Like, it was originally limited release in only like 300 theaters, and this week it was like over 1,000. I'm wondering if Hard Eyes had a similar situation, because I'm like, why did it have a 57% jump? Other than, I guess, because it's like labeled as a Valentine's movie, and it opened the week before Valentine's Day. So, no, it had the same amount of theaters. Yeah, I'm gonna attribute this to the fact that it was Valentine's Day weekend, and it was clearly released at this part of the year, to capitalize on that theming, right? So a 57% jump, which is cool to see. So far, its domestic total is around 21 million, with a worldwide total of closer to 22 million. So most of it, this is like over 90%, is being brought in by the at least domestic markets, on a budget of 18 million. So it's crossed that initial threshold. Still has a long way to go. Also, still in the continuing now into its second week, we have Love Hurts dropping from 4th to 6th place in its second week, bringing in 6.3 million, 9% jump, right? So also kind of benefiting from the Valentine's Day branding and theming. Hard Eyes got fine reviews, but Love Hurts has been kind of getting negative-ish reviews, and it also had a worse opening, I remember, from last week. So it is still in the red, if you see on that far right column. Worldwide, it's only brought in a little over 13 million, again, off of a $18 million budget. So, sorry, Kiwi Kwan and Ariana DeBose. It looks like Love hurts, as well as box office performance also hurts. looking here, still in the top 5, we have Dogman, right, dropping from 1st to 4th place in its 3rd week now, bringing in about $12.5 million. It was about a 30% drop, and this has been doing meh, right? Like, so in its 3rd week, you know, it's if you look at the legs are still below 2, which is not great, but also not ridiculous for a 3rd week performance. But also not like we shouldn't settle for that. Like we've seen, I mean, if you look at Hard Eyes and Love Hurts, which are in their 2nd week, they've had better performance and longevity just in 2 weeks. Dogman bringing in a little, about $84.5 million off a $40 million budget. So, all of that to say, though, then, it's profitable, right? It is in the green, and, you know, I think it will continue to make money because there's not really much competition, to a film like Dogman, so I think it'll keep making money. It's just a matter of how much per week, how much can be squeezed out of it, right? Speaking of movies getting squeezed for every last drop of value, Mufasa the Lion King, dropping out of top 5, finally, 5th to 7th, in its 9th week, though. In its 9th week, bringing in about $5.5 million, a 1% drop. This is insane. Why and how is this movie doing so well? And again, doing so well is relative, right? Because if you look at the percent return, it's not gangbusters. It's made about $686 million off of a $200 million budget. So only like a little less than 250% return, which is not insane. It is you know, it is not that impressive, especially when you compare it to you know, its predecessor, the live action Lion King from 2019. But it's that longevity, right? So if you look at the legs column, again, legs for the uninitiated, this is basically a number that we derive by taking the total domestic box office, in this case it's around $240 million, and dividing it by the film's biggest domestic weekend. Typically that's the opening weekend, but for example, like this, you know, for Hard Eyes and Love Hurts, this weekend is gonna most likely be its biggest weekend. Films like you know, that started limited releases, then went wide. You know, that they're once they go wide, that'd be their biggest weekend. And so theoretically, the result of that equation, the bigger the number means the more money you're making as a whole. It's not all front loaded in this like one big weekend. 6.54. That is insane. It's one of the highest that I've ever seen doing this show, since I've been calculating this figure. And again, it's just been making money week after week after week, to the point, again, it only is now dropping out of the top 5. You know, opened right before Christmas, kind of had a weaker start, and then kind of improved. Like, it kind of, I don't know if it had a jump, but it jumped at least its spot in the top 10. I think it only opened, I forget where it opened, but it ended up then somehow making it to the top, to number 1, and holding that for a really, really long time. I think it was until Dogman came out a couple weeks ago. So, you know, got middling reviews, but again, like I've said, you know, perhaps the meme, the what did you say about my bra, that it works. You know, it somehow gets people into the theater, and, you know, it helps, again, squeeze every last drop. Another film also worth mentioning here is One of Them Days. You know, not in theaters for as long, but it is now in its 5th week, dropping from 6th to 8th place, bringing in $4.3 million, only a 12% drop, which is pretty good. And look at the Lex, 3.69. It's in the green. It's you know, it's only been domestic as well. It's only been playing in domestic markets, and it's brought in about $43.5 million domestically and worldwide, off of a $14 million budget. So again, you have these smaller, if you can have these smaller movies, you know, because I look at something like Mufasa, you know, instead of making a $200 million movie, what if you made 10, $20 million movies? So you spread out the risk, and theoretically, if they can all have a similar ROI, then there's more diversity of content at the box office. And you're just giving filmmakers more filmmakers, more opportunities, right? So it's exciting to see one of them days. This is another one of those films that I was gonna go see. I had tickets like on 4 different times and had to cancel for different reasons. But I've heard it's really good, and I've seen little clips, and I love Keke Palmer. And SZA seems really funny in it as well. So I'm really glad to see that this is still kind of sticking out. It didn't kind of just like fall by the wayside in the box office landscape. And looking ahead to this upcoming weekend, we have The Monkey, Osgood Perkins' follow-up to his kind of sleeper hit Longlegs from, I think it was last year, right? That speaking of ROI, that had an incredible ROI. Not just in terms of money, but just kind of held out for a long time. So the reviews are out on this one. It seems good, but Longlegs didn't get like amazing reviews by any estimation. And that ended up doing really well. So, this is not projected to open super big, but I'm actually going to look up quickly here and confirm what Longlegs opened at. So Longlegs opened around 22 million. So this would put it right in this kind of same frame here. So it's projected to make around 17 to 24 million. I'm going to put it around 20.3. I'm going to start adding decimal places to try to make it as specific as I can. So it can sting even more when I'm wrong. And then we also have The Unbreakable Boy. This is seems like a very generic, family drama about, I guess it's based on a true story. It's, about, this little boy here named Austin who is on the autism spectrum and is also battling brittle bone disease. And his father, Scott, is played by Zachary Levi, who is not necessarily super popular right now. It's been a little controversial, so that might be hurting the film. And appropriately, it's only projected to make around 3 to 8 million. I'm going to put it around 5.7 million. So again, not a very, very big opening. Captain America is really going to be like one of the big openings for a while. Wow, what an interesting story. I'm sure you have some thoughts about the topic, so comment below, let me know what you think. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really, really helps people find the channel and makes me feel all warm inside. Until next time, I'm Peter Mancuso. Peace out.